Hey YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video, I just want to show you how to do a couple of quick and easy routine services to a motorcycle. I had a 2009 Triumph Street Triple R in the shop last month, and alongside some electrical issues, had the pleasure of doing some basic maintenance to it. So today I'm going to show you how to do an engine oil change and coolant flush on this bike, and we're going to start with engine oil. Now, without further ado, here goes. Looking at the bike underneath, we've got an oil drain plug right here. So just using my 13 millimeter, whoops, that's my 14. So I just use my 13 millimeter wrench, loosen that drain plug. And I just, because I normally work on cars, I didn't have a drain pan that fit. So I actually used an engine oil pan from one of my 7Ms. I was draining the oil into the oil pan. Once we have our engine oil drained, next we're going to remove and replace our engine oil filter. I got a little excited and did this step already before I decided that I wanted to film this video, so, but this is pretty straightforward. I feel like you can unbolt a drain plug, let the oil come out, and remove and replace the oil filter. When you're putting the filter back on, just make sure you put a little bit of engine oil on that inner seal before you put it back on to make it easier to undo next time, and tighten this to 10 Newton meters. Anyway, I just tightened back up the drain plug and got my new filter on. So this, I just replaced the aluminum crush washer, so kind of like a car. I don't know the exact specifications. I tightened it to 25 foot-pounds. And now as we come to the other side of the bike, we've got right here is the dipstick. And you can see we've got a range on there, very much like a normal car, low and high. And I'm going to be using that in a second. And then up here is where we're going to be filling from. There's a plastic fill plug right here with a rubber O-ring. I'm going to be replacing the rubber O-ring, but just be super careful with this since it is plastic. Here it is. There's that old O-ring. I mean, it's fine. No, it's not fine. It's pretty hard. I just don't want it to leak, so I'm going to wash my hands afterwards. And I just secured the funnel here, and I'm going to be adding in the oil. And after I add in about 3 quarts of oil, a little less than 3 quarts of oil actually, I'm going to stand the bike up and run it for about 10 seconds until I see that oil light, the oil pressure light, turn off. And then I'm going to check the level here and add in until it's full. And you want to make sure that the bike is standing upright, so not at an angle like this. So I'm gonna have to stand it up to check the level. And one last thing, I was able to find this at just my O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is a 1040 synthetic or semi-synthetic is what they want. And you're gonna be using a little bit over 3 quarts, so get 4. Okay, and there is that final oil level. After letting the bike cool down and let the oil settle back down in the case, you can take this reading when the bike is standing upright, and that is up to that second notch. Okay, so now that we have that part done, here's part 2, coolant exchange service or coolant flush, and this should be done every 2 years or every 12,000 miles. So here goes. And you know, while I'm here, I'm also going to do a coolant flush on the Triumph because it hasn't been done yet and it's past the interval. So what I'm going to do is, there is, if you look right above, where is it? Oh, right there. This is actually the drain plug for the coolant. It drains in not the most awesome place because you can see that it's right on top of the exhaust manifold here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the lower radiator hose right here, and that gives me a lot more space to fit a drain pan. And then I'm also, the next step is I'm going to be removing this fairing because underneath here is the radiator and the radiator cap. So I'm going to loosen the radiator cap to let the coolant drain a little bit faster. Okay, I didn't have a drain pan that would fit, so I just cut open a coolant bottle and that should be fine. And I'm going to remove this lower radiator hose. To remove this plastic, we're going to start by removing this bolt that holds the light fixture into place. Now this one is aftermarket, but on the factory one, this holds the light. And then once you get this one out, there are 3 more. One over here, this one should be the same as the rest, and then 2 in the front. One there, one there. 5mm. The next thing that I'm going to do is fill the cooling system up with distilled water, run it for a little bit, and then drain it back out again before I do my final fill so that I get all of that old coolant out. Okay, then here I just have some basic distilled water from HEB, and can't do this with one hand, so you're gonna have to imagine me doing it, but I am gonna put that in the radiator here. Fill it all the way up and start the bike and let the water pump cycle it through to clean out all the old coolant. Okay, so I just got done running the bike with the distilled water in there. Now I'm going to drain out the distilled water and coolant mixture. This is really hard with one hand. It's still super blue and still super cloudy, so definitely a good thing to, instead of just draining and filling, doing a flush like this, for sure. Actually, this is so nasty, I think I'm gonna do another flush. That cloudiness. Ah! All right, so I ended up doing only 2 flushes with the distilled water. You can see that my drain pan's getting kind of full here. And now I've got my actual Triumph coolant in there. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the bike and get it up to operating temperature. And over here on the upper radiator hose, you can see there's a bleed screw. So here I have a flathead screwdriver. I put some electrical tape on there so that I wouldn't cause any damage to the paint right here, because you're gonna get a little bit of an angle going on and you are gonna rub up against, you're gonna rub the screwdriver handle up against that upper radiator hose. So as the bike is running and it's idling and it's getting up to operating temperature, not when it's all the way up to operating temperature because you don't want to hurt yourself, but I'm going to open up this bleeder screw and let air come out. And of course, I've got my catch can underneath there. So, and then once I do that, I'm gonna get it all the way up to operating temperature, shut the bike off, let it cool down, and then top it up one more time. So that bleeder screw is pretty much at the highest point of the cooling system. So pretty much as soon as air bubbles stop coming out of the bleeder screw and only coolant comes out, then you can be sure that your job is pretty much complete and there's no more air left in the system. So what I like to do is kind of like on cars, you can go for a quick test drive around the block, get up to operating temperature, let it cool all the way down, and then before putting everything back together, just make sure that that coolant is all the way full in the radiator one last time before you call it good to go. So that is all. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you got something out of it, and I hope that now you feel empowered to be able to do your own services. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye! Lilith, is it 'cause Daisy's watching? You love the cabbage. Oh my goodness.